The Valley's 2016 election headquarters, News Talk 550 KFYI. And joining me in studio now is JP Holyoak. JP is the chair of the campaign to regulate marijuana like alcohol. And you've got one of the most closely watched, voter initiatives going on in the country. Not only, and we've got these two initiatives on the ballot. One, of course, the minimum wage increase, and then we've got this one. People are paying very close attention. Arizona is one of, I believe, 5 states that are going to be voting on whether or not to allow legalization of recreational marijuana. And, of course, Arizona, the latest polls, I believe, that came out from the...
Well, the opposition released their own polls, and their own polls seem to be outliers every time they release them.
Well, the Republic did one with Cronkite that showed 50% support and about 38% dissension. Am I correct in those numbers?
Yes, that's correct. But there was another poll that was released about a week ago that once again is put forth by the ARDP organization, essentially the county prosecutors and private prison complex and opioid makers, saying that it wasn't as close as what the Cronkite School of Journalism put out.
Okay, so right now, the polling numbers are typically in your favor anyway, right now. It seems that the people of Arizona are warming up to the idea of legalizing recreational marijuana.
They've been warm for quite some time. I mean, very early on, we did our polling long before we actually launched the campaign to see, essentially what the temperature of the water was, and we found it to be extremely favorable, and that's why we moved forward with the campaign.
All right, so JP, then I'm watching what's happening here with the opposition. I'm watching what's happening with people that are, and I've seen the ads. The ads are saying that since Colorado legalized, they point to Colorado, there's not been a whole lot of Washington or Oregon or Alaska or these others. They say Colorado legalized and the entire state went to hell. I
only wish that we could have some of the same problems that Colorado has, particularly on the economic side of things. When we look at things like Forbes magazine issued their own list of 190 best places in America to do business. And Colorado had 5 cities in the top 50, where Arizona only had 1 city in the top 100, and that was Phoenix. So when we look at Colorado as a whole, Colorado is doing fantastic, certainly from an economic front. And then when we actually go out and we ask the voters of Colorado what they think of legalization since it's been enacted, and the support for it is greater today than the day that they passed that law. So the idea that Colorado is falling apart, the sky is falling, well, it's simply fear-mongering and scare tactics that have no basis in reality.
So talk to me about this, because one of the points of contention that are made is that in Arizona, that the taxes that are taken in from recreational marijuana sales would go to schools. They say that's the same song and dance that was sold in Colorado, but Denver public schools haven't gotten anything. So what's the story then?
So it's an entirely different allocation of tax funds from Arizona to Colorado. In Colorado, they carved out and they said the first $40 million goes to schools, okay, which is exactly what has happened in Colorado. Now, it's true that the Denver schools didn't receive any money because they didn't apply for it either.
Oh.
So these schools, to actually receive that $40 million, they have to apply for it. Now, the way that their grant application system worked for those funds was that it did favor the rural school districts.
Okay.
So that money went out to the rural school districts. But as it sits right now, Colorado's sitting on about a $66 million annual budget surplus within their marijuana fund. And so now they're implementing other school programs like anti-bullying programs in their schools. So the idea that Colorado schools didn't get the money that they were allocated is a flat-out lie. So they're making things up.
What is the structure then for Arizona? How does Arizona differ?
Arizona's is really simple. We take 80% of the money and we put it to education. Now, half of that goes to K through 12. Half of that goes to full-day kindergarten, something that is lacking and very much needed in Arizona. Then 20% goes to the Arizona Department of Health Services for education regarding marijuana, alcohol, and other substances, because we believe that education is an important component to this.
JP Holyoak is with me right now. JP is with the Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol group. You're going to see Proposition 205 on the ballot here. Do we have projections as to how much money we're talking, and is it enough to make even a dent in so much of the issues that Arizona has with public schools right now?
It's never enough. I mean, Arizona schools are, what are we, 47th, 48th, 49th in the nation in funding?
Rough, yeah.
I'm not sure exactly where the numbers are, but it's certainly not enough. The JLBC, the Joint Legislative Budget Committee, which is actually part of the Arizona State Legislature, they scored this themselves. And they said that we're going to receive about $82 million in surtax revenue in the first fiscal year. And then that translates out to about $55 million annually that are going to our schools. Now, that's $55 million that are going directly into our schools and not to criminal drug cartels' hands.
So we talked about this, and I saw one of the pro-marijuana ads, too, that talks about how voting no on Prop 205 is like voting yes for drug cartels. That seems like a little bit of a stretch to me.
Well, no, it's not a stretch at all. We've actually got 2 retired DEA agents that are working with us on this campaign. And the DEA agents are telling us that between 60 and 70% of the drug cartel's profits are derived from marijuana. So when you look at who's opposed to marijuana legalization in Arizona, well, obviously we have the opioid manufacturers. I mean, they've been kicking in big money to the opposition. Then we also have the private prison complex. They've been kicking in big money to the opposition. But then there's a third and natural opposition, and that would be the illegal drug cartels.
So are you asserting that the illegal drug cartels are helping to fund the no on Prop 205 initiative?
I have absolutely no basis to back that up whatsoever, but we do know that they received about $500,000 of dark money just last week, and we don't know where they got that money. Did it come from cartels? I have no idea. But clearly, they got dark money from somebody that doesn't want to be disclosed.
And that is the power of suggestion right there. That's how it's done. JP Holyoak is with me right now, and JP, talk to me a little bit then about why we've got such ardent dissension from some of the highest law enforcement. Bill Montgomery, Sheila Polk in Yavapai County. These are some people who are very high up. They're the top prosecutors, the top law dogs in Maricopa, in Yavapai County, and they say this is a terrible, terrible idea. Why? Why should we not trust them? Because these are the people we look at to enforce the laws.
Well, these are the people that are paid to lock people up for simple marijuana possession crimes. And when we look at Arizona, we arrest about 14,000 individuals a year for simple marijuana possession. Now, the charge in Arizona for simple marijuana possession is a felony crime. Now, that doesn't mean all these people are going to prison. That's kind of one of those misnomers that's out there. But certainly they get arrested, they get processed through the system, they get strip searched, and then the county prosecutor comes along and says, hey, you have a choice. Either you can go to rehabilitation camp, or re-education camp as I like to call it. They call it a task force, a drug diversion program. Or you can have a felony. Those are your 2 choices. But then we also have to look at the asset forfeiture, because this is really interesting. This is an article that just came out today. An elderly couple filed a lawsuit regarding asset forfeiture. Now, when they seize property in the course of an alleged crime, they don't actually have to be proven that anyone was guilty. In this case, an elderly couple had their car seized because their grandson was driving it, and he had a small amount of marijuana with him. Now, in Arizona, that came out in 2015. That was about $35 million. Well, guess where that $35 million goes? It goes to the county prosecutor's offices. They're arresting for profit. The exact same reasons why the private prison complex is contributing to the campaign.
JP Holyoak, if we want more information, of course, you're encouraging people to fact check. You told me that before we got in here. You said make sure you're fact checking everything. So if people want to do with a fact checking before they vote.
Yes, I ask that everyone fact checks, and you know, this has been really great that some of the news media outlets have started fact checking both my commercials as well as the opposition's commercials. And as many of the listeners can imagine, they've found some errors in the no on Proposition 205 commercials. In fact, they've called them flat out false. They're perpetrating lies.
All right, so JP, we got about 60 seconds left. I'm going to let you wrap it up here with your closing statement.
This is really simple. It's not about yes marijuana or no marijuana, because the reality is that marijuana is here. It is a part of our everyday society, and anybody and everybody that wants marijuana today can get it easily and readily. So the question that we have before us is really a pragmatic one. Are we going to tax and regulate marijuana and send those dollars to our schools? Or are we going to keep it illegal for the enrichment of criminal drug dealers? That's really the only choice that we face. You don't have to be in favor of marijuana to be opposed to prohibition.
All right. We'll have an opportunity to vote on that November 8th, Prop 205. JP, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
It's Chris Merrill, News Talk 550 KFYI.